Don't Blank or You'll Look Puerto Rican by Ruth Lucas. Copyright 2014 by Ruth Lucas. Published by Inkwell Productions. Prologue. My name is Elle, and I've got a story to tell. How does one become self-determined? How does a person escape the messages they received at a very young age about who they are? Self-concept is a fragile thing, susceptible to all kinds of mistaken beliefs. Most of us go through our whole lives without realizing that while it is true that our self-concepts are the product of the sum of all the "you're smart" and "you're dumb" messages we receive while we are young, once we are adults, we get to take those messages and decide which ones we will accept as true and which ones we will determine to be mistaken. Once we determine which ones are mistaken, it's up to us to decide who we will be for the rest of our lives. The real challenge is that those original messages we received came from adults in our lives that we trusted to tell us the truth because they claimed to know what was best, to have our best interests in mind, and to really know what they were doing. The reality is those adults are fallible, imperfect beings who make mistakes. While there have been many brilliant people who have studied and documented proven techniques in raising compassionate, free-thinking, altruistic, responsible, productive, intelligent, talented adults, the reality is that most people have kids and don't have a clue how to parent children to achieve these ideals. The majority of people never reach for any of the plethora of resources out there to assist them in the monumental task of parenting. At their beginnings and blame those before us for the messes we face in the future? Absolutely not. I doubt any human being has ever really looked at an infant and thought, let's see how bad I can screw up this person. The truth is, it doesn't matter how we begin. What matters most is how we choose to live. There is no such thing as I can't. There is no can't. Or is there? The truth is, there is a can't. Yes, it's true. I had a screwed up start in life, but it's not the worst start I could have had. It's time to say I can't. I can't look back and wonder why things had to be the way they were. I can't look at myself in the mirror and let the messages I received from my youth determine my future. I can't hand the person I could be to the people who guided my beginnings. I can't relinquish the talents with which God blessed me to those who were mere human beings just like me. That's just way too much power for someone else other than me to wield. It's not their responsibility. It's mine. Does that mean that we must discard all the messages we received in our youth as though they were without value? No. Life is all about learning. It's about examining what we learned, sifting out that which does us harm, coming to terms with our circumstances, accepting reality, identifying our strengths, developing our talents, and replacing mistaken beliefs about ourselves with counter-beliefs that infuse us with hope and a healthy self-esteem that motivate us to be whoever we determine we can be. Mistakes are not bad. The truth is, mistakes are invaluable, for they provide us with the opportunities to gain wisdom. Without mistakes, we would never learn what not to do. A wise person once said, "The road to wisdom is paved with lots of choices and lots of mistakes." The beginning of wisdom is knowledge, and the path to true freedom to conquer the past is to know thyself. Unfortunately, we are fooled into believing that knowing thyself is a complicated task. It's not. Not really. I too believe that lie. Trust me, it's a lie. Knowing thyself is not complicated, not if we believe it is not. I had to learn this the hard way. So yes, it was complicated for me. I suspect it will be complicated for most of us. Why? Another wise person put it best, I think. Author Jerry Minchington said in his book, Maximum Self-Esteem, the majority of our problems have occurred because we accepted misinformation as true and went on to behave as though it were. I've come to believe all our problems, be they emotional or psychological, have their roots in our sense of self, self-esteem. Adolf Hitler, arguably one of the most disturbed individuals in human history, touted the idea that the bigger the lie, the more people will believe it. This is true. And the biggest lie, or better put, mistaken information I ever believed was who I was. I would venture to guess Hitler had no self-esteem whatsoever. Only a person with no self-esteem would commit the atrocities he perpetrated. Think about it. A person with high self-esteem would value others because he valued himself. I'm not making excuses for Hitler. There is no excuse for him. But there is an invaluable lesson to be learned by us all, even when examining the mistakes of a horrible individual. Yes, it's a journey we must all choose to accept as our responsibility at some point in our lives. If someone asked you to define yourself, what would you say? If someone asked me to define myself years ago, there were many adjectives I would have used. Black, female, mutt, damaged, mediocre, disenfranchised, hopeless, alone, weak, ghetto, incapable, excess baggage, mistake, short, powerless, naive, stupid, jack of all trades and a master of nothing. I believed I had an inordinately large head. I believed I had a ski slope nose. I believed I had a funny shape and ugly feet. I believed I had an unkissable mouth. I believed that I was nothing without others to hold me up and think me valuable. I believed that I was doomed to failure and would succeed at nothing special in particular. I believed a lie. I embraced mistaken beliefs about myself and ended up on a long, hard road to know myself and discover a simple truth. I am, and who I am is up to me. Why did I believe the lie? Just like you, I accepted misinformation as true. It all started when I believed I was black. Don't get me wrong, I am black. The problem was I believed that's all I was, race-wise, ethnicity-wise, in society. Being a black woman is a good thing. I don't wish I was anything else. The problem was I believed that I was only half good. I believed that I was inherently flawed in some undeniable way. Why? Well, the truth is I'm only half black. My father is Puerto Rican. His family immigrated to Puerto Rico 3 generations before me from a small village in Spain. So to make matters worse, I'm not even J-Lo Puerto Rican. My father and his whole side of the family don't have that nice, creamy coloring people associate with those from the Caribbean like Jennifer Lopez. They're as white as Caucasian people who can't tan and only burn in sunshine, with European features. Most today would say that's probably a good thing. Whenever you mix it up, meaning mix races, the result is usually pretty people. That might be true today, but back when I was growing up, it was not such a great thing. In fact, the way I looked became the source of most of my difficulties in the journey to determining who I would be for the rest of my life. You might be thinking, big deal. Today, I would have to agree with you. But back in the 60s, in the midst of the civil rights movement, and on throughout the 70s, my formative years, it was a very big deal. At least in New York it was. Yes, we all think of the Big Apple as a melting pot, But the truth is, there are still remnants of the segregation and prejudice that influenced the way I was brought up in existence there today, like Little Italy, Chinatown, Harlem, Spanish Harlem. These were neighborhoods from which you dared not venture to live back then, unless you were a celebrity or had some immense fortune. You knew your place, and those who were adventurous or brave enough to do so faced many challenges, some even within their own communities and families. In the sci-fi film The Fifth Element, Bruce Willis portrays a character named Corbin Dallas. Dallas encounters a young woman who, when united with the four elements of life, fire, water, wind, and earth, harnessed in four magical stones, can conquer any evil opposed to humanity. This young woman is supposed to be the fifth element. In this film, Chris Tucker plays a radio personality, Ruby Rhod, unwittingly sucked into a mission with Dallas to save the world, and at the final confrontation with evil, he faces the task of unleashing the power from the stone of fire. At that crucial moment, he looks at his stone and can't open it. Initially, he believes his is broken and asks, no one in particular, "Why gotta get the broke one?" This was the question I repeatedly asked myself until recently. Of course, I wasn't referring to a mystical stone. No, I was referring to my mother. Most of the adjectives and statements I would have used to describe myself years ago had their origins in the very messages I heard from her. Oh no, I don't wish I had a different mother. That's childish. But for many years, I accepted the mistaken beliefs I learned at a young age as true. I love my mother. She did the best she could under the circumstances. After all, she was functioning on mistaken beliefs herself all the while she raised me. Sadly, she projected her issues onto me, and she still hasn't learned to conquer her mistaken beliefs about herself. She wasn't all bad. Quite the contrary. I doubt anyone could ever love a child more than she believes she loves me. The reality is even the worst actions imaginable can start with the best intentions. She made a lot of mistakes. What I needed to do was reparent myself by regarding all her mistakes and those I made myself later on as a proverbial plate of food. The real trick was to choose what to eat and what to leave on the plate. Then all I had to do was decide to make my own plate. To do this, I had to start somewhere. Many people believe we should put the past behind us. I couldn't do that, at least not until I understood it better. So why did how I look become an issue? Because I got the message early on that the worst thing I could do was to look Puerto Rican. How? Why did I spend my entire youth and most of my young adult years trying desperately to not look Puerto Rican? Again, it's simple. I believed an entire half of my being was no good, was bad, was something to be avoided at any cost. But why?